Albuquerque, New Mexico. The Sandia Mountains rise majestically in the distance, a place where history whispers on the wind. The tranquility of Albuquerque is deceptive. Beneath the surface, a current of unease runs through the city, a story of rising crime rates, of gang violence, of lives lost too soon, a carjacking in a grocery store parking lot, a drive-by shooting that claims the life of a teenager. A domestic dispute that escalates into a deadly confrontation. Each incident sends shockwaves through the community. They form neighborhood watch groups, they install security systems, they cling to the hope that things will get better. Yet the reality of Albuquerque's dark side remains. Monique Garcia was a ray of light in Albuquerque's often shadowed landscape. At 31 years old, she was full of life, energy, and a zest for living that was contagious.
I always believed in the goodness of people.
Monique was a beloved daughter, a cherished sister, and a loyal friend. She had a gift for making people feel seen, heard, and loved.
My art is my way of sharing the beauty I see in the world.
But fate, it seemed, had other plans. April 3, 2023, a Wednesday. An ordinary day in Albuquerque. In a modest apartment complex, nestled in a quiet neighborhood, life went on as usual. Monique Garcia was at home that morning, in her small but cozy apartment. She felt a surge of creativity and eagerness to translate the images in her mind onto canvas. Around noon, a sense of unease settled over the apartment complex.
A young man, his face contorted with anger, approached Monique's apartment.
Inside her apartment, Monique was oblivious to the approaching danger. She was lost in her art, her brush dancing across the canvas.
The young man pounded on Monique's door, his fists heavy with rage.
The first gunshot ripped through the quiet afternoon, a deafening blast that shattered the peace of the apartment complex. Panic erupted in the courtyard. Children screamed, their terrified cries echoing through the air. Witnesses, their faces pale with shock, watched in horror as the young man emerged from Monique's apartment, a gun in his hand. The young man disappeared down the street, leaving behind a scene of devastation. The silence that followed the gunshots was deafening. Residents, their ears still ringing, cautiously emerged from their apartments, their faces etched with a mixture of fear and disbelief. The wail of approaching sirens cut through the tense silence, growing louder with each passing second. Soon the courtyard was swarming with police officers and paramedics. Inside Monique's apartment, paramedics fought desperately to save her life. She lay on the floor, her once vibrant eyes now closed, her body racked with pain. Outside, in the courtyard, a crowd had gathered. Neighbors stood huddled together, their faces etched with worry and disbelief. Among the crowd, a name was whispered: Jake. News of the shooting spread like wildfire through Albuquerque, leaving a trail of shock and grief in its wake. Monique Garcia, a young woman with a bright future ahead of her, had become another statistic. Local news channels ran non-stop coverage, their screens filled with images of the crime scene. Social media exploded with tributes to Monique. Albuquerque mourned the loss of one of its own.
This is my duty, my responsibility. Detective James Harrington arrived at the apartment complex with the weight of countless investigations heavy on his shoulders. The flashing lights of patrol cars painted the fading afternoon light with an eerie glow. Years on the force had etched lines into Harrington's face. He had learned that even in the most senseless acts, a thread of truth, however tangled, always existed.
The interior of Monique's apartment was a tableau frozen in time.
Harrington moved through the space with a practiced eye.
An overturned easel lay on the floor, paintbrushes scattered like fallen soldiers.
He crouched down beside the body, a pang of sympathy clenching his gut.
A shell casing lay discarded near the doorway, a silent accusation in the disordered room. Outside, in the courtyard now bathed in the soft glow of dusk, Detective Harrington began piecing together the fragments of Monique's life.
Neighbors eager to share what they knew approached him with a mix of apprehension and relief.
Their words painted a picture of a young woman loved by many.
Monique was the sweetest girl.
Jake's name hung in the air, a specter haunting the investigation. The interrogation room was a stark contrast to Monique's colorful apartment.
Seated across from Detective Harrington, his face pale and drawn, was Mark, Monique's ex-boyfriend.
His eyes were red-rimmed, his shoulders slumped with grief.
Mark, I know this is difficult, but we need to understand what happened to Monique.
Jake, the jealous ex, the whispers of obsession. It was time to delve deeper into the darkness that surrounded him. Jake's apartment was sparsely furnished, the walls bare except for a single poster of a heavy metal band. The air hung heavy with the scent of stale beer and unfulfilled potential.
It was the dwelling of a young man adrift, lost in the throes of a broken heart and fueled by a dangerous cocktail of jealousy and rage.
Empty pizza boxes and beer cans littered the coffee table, a testament to sleepless nights and a mind consumed by obsessive thoughts. Harrington picked up a framed photograph, the smiling faces of Monique and Jake staring back at him.
Jake's arm was wrapped possessively around Monique's waist, his smile strained, as if trying too hard to convince the world of their happiness.
He never liked the fact that Monique dumped him, Jake's roommate told Harrington, his voice low, his eyes darting nervously around the room. He'd sit here for hours, scrolling through her social media, muttering to himself about how she'd made a mistake, how she'd regret leaving him.
Harrington felt a growing sense of dread, the weight of Jake's obsession pressing down on him. This wasn't just a crime of passion, it was a calculated act, fueled by a dangerous cocktail of possessiveness and resentment.
The evidence was mounting against Jake, but without a confession, the case remained open, a wound festering in the heart of the community. Days turned into nights as the investigation continued, the pressure mounting with each passing hour. The media frenzy surrounding Monique's murder reached a fever pitch, the city holding its breath, demanding answers, demanding justice. But Jake had vanished, disappearing into thin air, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and a city on edge.
Harrington worked tirelessly, driven by the memory of Monique's smiling face and the knowledge that a killer walked free. He reviewed witness statements, scrutinized forensic reports, and chased down every lead, no matter how insignificant it seemed. The pressure was immense, but Harrington refused to give up, his dedication to the truth unwavering.
Yet despite their best efforts, the investigation seemed to have hit a dead end. Jake's whereabouts remained unknown, his motives a mystery. The shadow of doubt loomed large, threatening to derail the investigation and leave Monique's murder unsolved.
Then, just when all hope seemed lost, a break in the case came from an unexpected source. A phone call, a tip from a conscience-stricken individual revealed a crucial piece of information. Jake was hiding out at his aunt's house, a small town miles from Albuquerque. Armed with this newfound knowledge, Harrington and his team prepared to make their move, their determination renewed, their hope rekindled. Justice for Monique Garcia might be within reach.
Monique and Mark's love story began like something out of a movie, a chance meeting at a local art fair. Her vibrant paintings had caught his eye, drawing him in with their color and energy. He had been captivated by her passion, her infectious laugh, and the way her eyes seemed to sparkle with a zest for life. They had spent hours that day, talking about art, dreams, and their shared love for Albuquerque's unique charm. He was drawn to her free spirit, her kind heart, and the way she saw beauty in the everyday. She found him grounded, supportive, and genuinely interested in the world she created through her art. Their relationship blossomed quickly, filled with laughter, shared adventures, and a deep connection that felt both exciting and comfortable. He was her biggest fan, encouraging her artistic endeavors, and she in turn brought a sense of lighthearted joy into his life. They were a picture-perfect couple, their love a beacon of hope in a city often shrouded in darkness. But like many love stories, theirs was not without its challenges. As the months turned into a year, cracks began to appear in their idyllic facade. Their differences, once endearing quirks, became sources of contention. He craved stability, routine, while she thrived on spontaneity and creative freedom. The arguments started small, whispers of discontent, but soon escalated into full-blown battles, leaving them both feeling unheard and misunderstood. It was during one of these periods of estrangement that Monique met Jake. Young, full of raw energy, and instantly smitten with her beauty and vibrant personality, he was like a breath of fresh air. He was a musician, his soul pouring out through the music he created, and she found herself drawn to his passion, his intensity, a reflection of the fire that still burned within her. Their connection was immediate, a whirlwind of late-night jam sessions, shared dreams, and stolen kisses that left her feeling exhilarated and alive. Jake, unlike Mark, embraced her spontaneity, her need for creative freedom. He was her muse, his youthful energy reawakening a part of her that she felt had been dormant. For a while, Monique tried to juggle both relationships, torn between the comfortable familiarity of her life with Mark and the intoxicating excitement of her connection with Jake. But it was a balancing act that proved impossible to maintain. The lies, the sneaking around, the constant fear of discovery chipped away at her soul, leaving her feeling lost and confused. In the end, it was Mark who ended their relationship. He had seen the telltale signs, the distracted glances, the way her eyes lit up whenever Jake's name was mentioned. The pain of her betrayal cut deep, leaving him with a heart full of resentment and a simmering anger that he struggled to control.
The breakup hit me hard. I had poured my heart and soul into the relationship. Consumed by jealousy, Jake began to obsess over Monique and her newfound happiness with Mark. He would spend hours driving past her apartment, his heart sinking with each glimpse of them together.
Social media became both his tormentor and his only connection to Monique. He would scroll through her photos, each image a painful reminder of what he had lost. The confrontation at the art fair was inevitable. Monique had gone with Mark, her hand resting nervously in his, her eyes constantly scanning the crowd, dreading the possibility of running into Jake. The air was thick with unspoken tension, the joy of their earlier encounters replaced by a palpable sense of unease. And then, just as she had feared, she saw him. Jake stood across the crowded courtyard, his eyes locked on her, his face a mask of rage. She felt a chill run down her spine, her breath catching in her throat as she instinctively took a step back, pulling Mark closer as if seeking protection from the storm brewing in Jake's eyes. The scene that unfolded next played out in slow motion. Jake stormed through the crowd, his eyes never leaving Monique, his anger palpable, a physical force that sent people scattering out of his path. Mark, sensing the danger, stepped in front of Monique, his jaw clenched, his stance protective.
Stay away from her.
Mark's voice was low, a warning growl that echoed through the sudden silence that had descended upon the once festive atmosphere. But Jake was beyond reason, beyond logic. Blinded by jealousy and fueled by a cocktail of alcohol and resentment, he lunged at Mark, his fist connecting with his jaw, the sound of the impact echoing through the stunned silence. The art fair erupted into chaos. People screamed, scattering like startled birds as the fight between Mark and Jake escalated.
It should have been me, he screamed, his voice hoarse with anger and despair. She was supposed to be mine.
Monique watched in horror, her heart pounding in her chest, her own voice lost in the cacophony of noise and fear. Security guards, alerted by the commotion, rushed to break up the fight, their bodies forming a barrier between the two men, their words lost in the adrenaline-fueled frenzy. Jake, his face contorted with rage, spat curses at Mark, his words fueled by a potent mix of heartbreak and alcohol. His words, raw with pain and possessiveness, hung in the air, a chilling testament to the depth of his obsession. Monique, trembling with fear, recoiled from the venom in his voice, the realization hitting her with the force of a physical blow. Jake was dangerous. As security guards dragged Jake away, his eyes, filled with a chilling mix of rage and despair, met Monique's for a fleeting moment in that brief exchange. She saw a darkness that sent a shiver down her spine, a premonition of something terrible looming on the horizon. She had tried to convince herself that Jake was harmless, that his anger was fueled by heartbreak, but deep down, a seed of fear had been planted. In the aftermath of the art fair confrontation, a fragile peace settled over Monique's life. She had filed a restraining order against Jake, hoping to create a barrier of legal protection between them. She had changed her phone number, her locks, desperate to erase any trace of him from her life. But the fear lingered, a constant shadow that followed her everywhere she went. She jumped at every creak of the floorboard, every unexpected knock at the door. Sleep, once a refuge, now evaded her, replaced by nightmares of Jake's rage-filled face and the chilling echo of his threats. Mark, racked with guilt over the altercation at the art fair, tried to be her rock, her protector. He encouraged her to take self-defense classes, walked her to her car at night, and stayed with her whenever he could, hoping to shield her from the storm he sensed was brewing. But even his love and support couldn't erase the fear that had taken root in Monique's heart. Jake's obsession had poisoned her world, turning her once safe haven into a prison of her own making. She was trapped, living in a constant state of heightened awareness, her senses on high alert, waiting, always waiting, for the other shoe to drop. The fluorescent lights of the interrogation room cast a sterile glow on Jake's face. The air hung thick with tension, the silence broken only by the hum of the hidden camera. His bloodshot eyes darted nervously around the room, searching for an escape route. He had been picked up without incident at his aunt's house, his bravado replaced by a defeated slump. The weight of his actions had finally crashed down upon him, leaving him stripped bare.
Jake, Harrington began, we're not here to judge you, we just want to understand what happened.
Harrington had seen countless suspects pass through this same room, but there was something about Jake, a vulnerability that transcended his brash exterior. This wasn't a hardened criminal, but a young man lost in a labyrinth of his own making. He placed a file on the table, the black and white image of Monique's smiling face staring up at them. A flicker of pain crossed Jake's face, his gaze dropping to his tightly clenched hands. Jake's initial defiance was a flimsy shield, a desperate attempt to project an air of indifference, to convince himself, as much as Harrington, that he was in control.
I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't seen Monique in weeks.
He refused to meet the detective's gaze, his answers to the initial questions clipped, rehearsed, a script designed to deflect and deny. But Harrington, a seasoned reader of human nature, saw through the act, recognizing the fear that lurked beneath the surface, the subtle tremor in his voice, the way his eyes darted towards the door as if contemplating escape.
Jake, Monique was special. Everyone who knew her felt it. Don't you think she deserves justice? Don't you think she deserves to have her story told?
He knew that behind the wall of denial, behind the fear and the bravado, lay a flicker of guilt, a spark of humanity that could be the key to unlocking the truth. And slowly, like a dam threatening to burst, the cracks in Jake's carefully constructed facade began to appear. His shoulders slumped, his bravado fading like air leaking from a punctured tire. He ran a hand through his hair, the weight of Harrington's words, the weight of Monique's absence pressing down on him with unbearable force. The charade was crumbling, revealing the scared, heartbroken young man beneath, a young man on the precipice of confessing his sins. The silence in the interrogation room stretched, punctuated by the tick-tock of the clock on the wall, each second an eternity for Jake as he wrestled with his conscience. The carefully constructed wall of denial he had built around himself was crumbling, brick by agonizing brick. He could feel Harrington's gaze upon him, not judgmental, but probing, seeking the truth that lay buried beneath the layers of fear and self-preservation. He wanted to confess, to unburden himself from the crushing weight of guilt that had haunted him since that fateful afternoon. But fear, a vice grip around his chest, kept the words trapped in his throat. The consequences of his actions, the realization that he had taken a life, were slowly suffocating him, leaving him gasping for air in a sea of despair. He thought about Monique, her laughter, her vibrant spirit, the way her eyes used to light up whenever she talked about her art. The memory, once a source of comfort, now felt like a brand, searing his soul with the knowledge that he was the one who had extinguished that light forever.
I just wanted her to be happy.
He whispered, his voice breaking, the carefully constructed wall of indifference finally crumbling under the weight of his remorse. The words, barely audible, were a plea for understanding, a desperate attempt to justify the actions that had led him to this moment of reckoning. As the dam of denial finally broke, Jake's confession poured forth, a torrent of guilt, remorse, and the heart-wrenching realization of the irreversible consequences of his actions. He spoke in fragmented sentences, his voice choked with sobs, his words painting a picture of a love that had morphed into a dangerous obsession, fueled by jealousy and a desperate need for control. He spoke of the sleepless nights, the endless scrolling through Monique's social media, each image a dagger to his heart, fueling the flames of his resentment. He described the growing rage within him, the feeling of powerlessness as he watched her slip further away, choosing a life that no longer included him. He recounted the events of that fateful afternoon, his impulsive visit to Monique's apartment, the argument that escalated into a blinding rage, the gun he had bought in a moment of despair, a desperate attempt to reclaim some semblance of power, a way to silence the voices in his head that screamed of his inadequacy.
It all happened so fast. One minute we were arguing, the next I heard the gunshot and she was...
His words trailed off. The horror of that moment, the image of Monique collapsing to the floor, forever seared into his memory. He had gone there to confront her, to win her back, but instead, he had taken everything from her, leaving behind a void that would never be filled.
As Jake's confession came to an end, a heavy silence descended upon him, the weight of his actions, the irrefutable truth of his crime, settling over him like a shroud. The bravado had vanished, replaced by bone-deep remorse.
He had confessed, unburdened himself, yet relief remained elusive. A profound emptiness gnawed at him, realizing his life was forever altered. As the wheels of justice turned, Jake's case became a lightning rod for Albuquerque's grief and outrage. The media descended upon the courthouse, capturing every twist and turn of the legal proceedings. The city grappled with grief, anger, and the need for accountability. The trial laid bare the devastating consequences of Jake's actions. Witnesses recounted events, painting a picture of jealousy and rage. Experts testified about the psychology of obsession and its tragic consequences. Jake sat in the courtroom bearing the weight of his crime. His bravado had crumbled, replaced by quiet despair. The jury's verdict, guilty of second-degree murder, came as no surprise. The judge read the sentence, 25 years to life. Justice had been served, but a profound sense of emptiness lingered. A young life lost, another altered, and Albuquerque left to grapple with the tragedy. The news of Monique Garcia's murder sent shockwaves through Albuquerque, leaving a trail of grief and disbelief. The city, known for its vibrant culture, was now draped in sorrow. The randomness of the act struck a chord of fear and vulnerability in the hearts of its residents. Monique's story resonated deeply. She was a daughter, a friend, an artist whose life touched countless others. The outpouring of grief was immense, a testament to her impact. Candlelight vigils illuminated the night, casting flickering shadows on the faces of mourners. Her favorite park became a makeshift memorial, adorned with flowers and heartfelt messages. Albuquerque mourned collectively, united in their grief and determination to ensure Monique's memory would never be forgotten. In the wake of tragedy, the human spirit often finds solace in acts of kindness and remembrance. Monique's friends, determined to honor her memory in a way that transcended the darkness of her death, channeled their grief into creating a lasting legacy that would celebrate her life and inspire others. They established the Monique Garcia Arts Foundation, a non-profit organization dedicated to providing art scholarships to underprivileged youth, a cause close to Monique's heart. Monique had always believed in the power of art to heal, to empower, and to give voice to the voiceless, and the foundation, a testament to her unwavering spirit, sought to carry on her mission. The foundation's first initiative was the creation of a community mural in Monique's honor, a vibrant tapestry of color and life that would transform a once drab wall into a symbol of hope and resilience. People from all walks of life, from seasoned artists to those who had never picked up a paintbrush, came together, united in their desire to contribute to something beautiful, something that would honor Monique's memory and inspire others to embrace their own creativity. The unveiling of the mural became a cathartic moment for the community, a celebration of Monique's life, and a testament to the power of art to heal even the deepest wounds. It stood as a powerful reminder that even in the face of tragedy, beauty can emerge, and that Monique's legacy, her spirit, would continue to inspire and uplift generations to come. Monique's murder, while a stark tragedy, served as a catalyst for much-needed conversations about domestic violence, mental health awareness, and the importance of recognizing the warning signs often ignored or dismissed. The community, shaken to its core, demanded action, refusing to let another life be lost to the preventable tragedy of intimate partner violence. Local organizations already stretched thin saw a surge in calls for help, a heartbreaking indication of the prevalence of domestic violence lurking beneath the surface of seemingly perfect lives. Support groups formed, offering a safe space for victims to share their stories, find solace in shared experiences, and access the resources needed to break free from the cycle of abuse. Monique's story became a rallying cry for change, a stark reminder that behind closed doors, countless individuals, often silenced by fear or societal stigma, suffer in silence. The community, determined to honor Monique's memory by turning her tragic death into a catalyst for action, organized awareness campaigns, fundraisers for local shelters, and educational workshops designed to equip individuals with the knowledge and resources to identify and address the often subtle signs of domestic abuse. Monique Garcia's legacy extended far beyond the vibrant colors of her art. It became a beacon of hope, a call to action, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit, when united in a common purpose, can inspire change, offer support, and create a safer, more compassionate world in her memory.
Detective James Harrington stood on the newly painted sidewalk, gazing at the vibrant mural commemorating Monique Garcia. The afternoon sun bathed the colors in a warm light, a stark contrast to the chilling events months ago. The laughter of children playing in a nearby park filtered through the air, a bittersweet reminder of the life tragically cut short.
Harrington knew that true justice, the kind that brought solace and healing, was a far more elusive goal. A life sentence for Jake wouldn't bring Monique back, wouldn't erase the pain etched on the faces of those who loved her. Albuquerque, a city known for its resilience, slowly began to heal. The initial shock and grief over Monique's murder gradually gave way to a collective determination to honor her memory by addressing the underlying issues that had contributed to her tragic end. Conversations about domestic violence, once relegated to hushed whispers, became more open, more frequent. People began to recognize the red flags, the subtle signs of control and manipulation that often precede acts of physical violence. The stigma surrounding mental health issues began to dissipate, replaced by a growing understanding that seeking help was a sign of strength, not weakness. Monique's story had ripped away the veneer of normalcy, exposing the vulnerability that existed beneath the surface of everyday life. It served as a stark reminder that behind closed doors, countless individuals suffered in silence, trapped in relationships that had morphed from love into prisons of fear and control. The Monique Garcia Arts Foundation, a testament to her belief in the transformative power of art, flourished. Young artists, their faces reflecting a mix of hope and determination, flocked to the foundation's workshops, their creativity a testament to Monique's enduring legacy. With every brushstroke, every note played, every word written, Monique's spirit lived on, a beacon of light illuminating the path toward a brighter, more compassionate future. As Detective Harrington turned to leave, his gaze lingered on a message scrawled on the edge of Monique's mural. In loving memory of Monique Garcia, may her light continue to shine brightly in our hearts. The words, simple yet profound, resonated deeply with the detective, offering a glimmer of hope amidst the lingering sadness.
He had learned over the years that some wounds never truly heal, that the scars of tragedy, both visible and invisible, remained etched upon the soul. But he had also witnessed the extraordinary resilience of the human spirit, the capacity for compassion and growth even in the face of unimaginable loss.
Monique's story, a tragic tapestry of love, obsession, and loss, had forced Albuquerque to confront its own demons, to acknowledge the shadows that lurked beneath the surface of its sun-drenched streets. But it had also ignited a spark of change, a collective determination to honor her memory by choosing compassion over indifference, understanding over judgment, and love over fear.
The road ahead would be long, the journey toward healing fraught with challenges. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the city, Harrington allowed himself a flicker of hope. Monique's light, her spirit would continue to shine brightly, illuminating the path toward a future where love, not loss, defined the narrative of Albuquerque's